And I truly believe this idea of brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization. It is that deep down, you talk about senses, it's like you just know it. It is that gut feeling you have about something.
Hey there, and welcome to Under the Roof, the official podcast of Baker Roofing Company. I'm Todd Kavanaugh.
And I'm Matt Elban, and we're here to connect the dots between field and office, leadership and crew, values and action.
In each episode, we dive into the stories, lessons, and updates that matter to our team.
From safety and career growth to company milestones and good old-fashioned storytelling, it's all about living out what makes Baker, Baker. Let's get into it. All right, well, welcome back to Under the Roof. This is a podcast where we look at what's really under the hood of one of the oldest and most experienced roofing contractors in the industry. We're talking strategy, partnerships, innovation, history, and the people who made it all work and make it all work. At the end of the day, this is about what makes Baker tick, and there's a lot more under there than what most people realize.
So today we have a very special guest, someone I've gotten to know over the last year and a half or so, and really have come to respect, and not just because he has a really cool accent. It's Dave Hardy, and he's with us today. He is the Executive Vice President of Brand Strategy at ThinkShift. Baker Roofing has recently partnered with ThinkShift. They're a marketing and creative agency based out of Canada, and on something we're really genuinely proud of, a brand refresh. And we're excited to share that with you today. Dave, welcome to Under the Roof.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for the lovely introduction. It's been a fabulous few months working with you folks.
So, Dave, before we get into all of the questions we've got lined up for you, I have to acknowledge something really important. A bit back when I first met Dave, I found out he's a fellow Manchester United supporter, which immediately tells you that he has excellent taste. And then there's Todd, who's sitting over there in his lonely seat as a Villa fan, 1 point behind United in the table right now, 1 point, and somehow Todd walks in here like that gap doesn't exist. But Dave, I want you to know you're not alone in the studio. So
I hear you. It's one of my favorite things was coming down to see all of you, and then all the Premier League chat walking around was just the best. I felt immediately at home.
yeah, well, we want you to feel at home here. So with that being said, I always start this off with one question. I ask everybody this question. I've always enjoyed asking it, hearing the answers, and I do have a list going of the answers. So Dave, what is the last book you've read, and what did you take away from it?
Oh gosh, what a fantastic question. The last book that I read. Do you know what? This is going to sound very boring, Todd. The last book that I read is a book that I've read about 400 times, but I read it almost every month, is The Brand Gap by Marty Neumeyer. This is disgusting. Look at it. Oh my gosh. But it is, I would consider it my go-to for all things brand. And the reason I read it so much is because it just takes me back to when I first got into the whole branding thing. And if you wanted to make it very simple and understandable, this is the book to read. And it just clarifies so much. And it also brings to importance the whole idea of brand. So as boring and as obvious as that is, that's the book. I read it almost once a month just to kind of remind myself of the power of all of this. So, yeah.
Well, I'm putting
It's a
it on my
great book.
list, so it's there.
It's been a while since I've read it, but you have now just inspired me. I need to read it again. You're right.
And
The lessons are there. They need to be taught every single time.
Yeah, and why I read it is I'm a really slow reader, and I can actually. It's got really big type. It sounds really stupid, but it's got really big type, and I can read it on a plane. And that was the whole idea of keeping it short and simple. So
I love that. We're not probably going to get into it today, but I see the archetype sitting there behind you as well.
yeah,
And that may come out in the conversation a little bit today. I love that and what it's meant for us and how we've helped frame our brand. So, hey, let's get into it. Talking about brand. So when ThinkShift first engaged with Baker, Dave, you kind of came in a little bit as an outsider with an
Mhm.
outside perspective on a 111-year-old company. what was your first impression? And that doesn't have to be like the polished, this is what you want to hear version. Um, but I mean, what did you actually see when you started doing some of your discovery work here at Baker?
Well, it's what I saw, but it's what I felt. So two different things. So what I saw immediately, Todd, I think I was working with you on a small project before we actually started, but I immediately saw the always good work sign. I remember seeing it. I remember it coming up, and I remember seeing that, and I remember thinking, this is something unique. This is something I have not seen before, and immediately I was intrigued by the story behind that idea. Like unbelievable, just the way it was presented as well as a designer, being my history, just the way it was put forward, just the way it looks, everything about it. There was an immediate something there where I thought, there's something unique here. There's something I need to scratch away at here to get to a real core story. So that's what I saw. I remember seeing that. I remember thinking, that's interesting. That's got my attention, which in branding is really, really important. And then when I came down, this is what I felt. There is a family, community aspect to what you guys do, what you bring, who you are. And I felt it. I felt it in the way that you all talk to me. I felt it in the inviting nature of the conversation. I felt it in the Premier League football talk. Anything, everything. I felt it. I felt it in the way that you talked. It was like I was being invited into a very warm family, and that is unique. And so when I those two things, right? That was my introduction. That was my handshake into the brand, was through those two key pieces. And immediately, when you start to see and feel those things, you want to build connections and tell stories around that because it's unique. You don't get that everywhere. And that was special. I remember thinking that and feeling that.
Well, I somebody shared this phrase with me a while ago. It's hard to read the label from inside the bottle, and sometimes when you're like living in the bottle for so long, you start to get kind of normalize that experience, right? And having somebody come in from the outside and read that label and say, "Hey, this is what it feels like to experience you guys," is validating with what I think Matt and I get to live in every day. Of course, your workplace, there's and we do work, and sometimes work there's friction, but at the end of the day, it feels great to hear somebody validate like that team that we want to be and aspire to be, as a company. So
Yeah, I mean, I think Todd, you and I probably had those experiences when we first came, and our company's changed obviously in the last 20 years and beyond that. But we've had those experiences where we've come in and maybe we felt welcomed right away, and we jumped right onto a team, and we were making an impact, and the business was going great. And then we've also seen situations where people have come in and maybe it hasn't fit. But you used a phrase there a minute ago. It wasn't just about what you see, but it's about what you felt. And there is an element of, and I'm sure you're going to get into this, but when I think of branding, I think about what you feel sometimes. It's not just what you see. Yeah, we all recognize a logo, right? But it's way more than just that. And so I'm
Yeah.
excited for this conversation about that.
Yeah. You know, as a designer, it's really easy to fall into that trap and you know, brand is the logo. Brand is, the visual side, the visual identity of any company, any business. But you're absolutely right, Matt. It's massive. It's a huge part of it, and so it goes way beyond visual. It goes way beyond, any kind of visual organization or structure or anything like that. It is about storytelling, and it is interwoven. Brand strategy is interwoven into business strategy. Like the two go hand in hand. And so whenever you're building your business strategy, brand is, I remember drawing this on a white sheet of paper when I was there. There's almost like a double helix: brand strategy, business strategy. Your business strategy is your business strategy. It's how you're going to grow. It's, where are your customers? What type of customers? It is margins. It's making sure your business is operating in a really fantastic way that drives value for everybody. brand strategy is what your customers need from you. They need a connection. They need to know that you're there. They need to know that you're authentic in what you're going to deliver. And you need to understand the relationship between those two things, tell that story consistently, drive to matter to people, and you know, uh, that will inform your business and help you drive your business strategy. So it's much more than a visual. It's a storytelling ability to create meaning for people, to create connection, to stand out, to make sense, and to make it easy to work with. And you do all those things, you're doing it right.
So when you're doing your brand discovery work, and you're asking, I'm sure, questions and whatnot, but with a company that has as much history as
Yeah.
Baker does, how do you begin? What are you listening for? What are you listening to? Who are you listening to?
Yeah, you want to get a good sense of the things I just talked about. So we interviewed a big selection of the executive team, Mark, and tried to get a good overview of a few different areas. So kind of the differentiation is important, and the perception of differentiation within the organization. I think that was a key area of what everybody believed made them stand out. Again, differentiation is a massive component of branding, and if you got to stand out, you got to be different, and to get noticed, to cut through the clutter. So understanding what everybody thought was their differentiator was really key. Culture, culture, and who you are, and how you the expectations you set for each other, the communication type you have for each other, like the family aspect that I felt when I was there. That's your culture in action, and that was very, very important to get a good understanding of your audience, where you want to grow the business, and digging into that was is vital, because we got to understand, again, how does the brand support that growth? How does the brand support successful business? And then what we're looking for is alignment, and we're looking for misalignment. And one thing we saw was a lot of alignment. We saw a lot of alignment in a lot of those areas, and that's really what we're looking for. That guided so much of how we structured then the workshops, was based around the feedback we got in that discovery session. So
I love that the workshop aspect of it, Dave. One of the things that I think for the internal team here at Baker that was attracted to ThinkShift was your process and and approach that ThinkShift and you take to walking a company through this. I think like so often, I wouldn't say so often, but we have seen in the past agencies step in and try to tell this is who you are, rather than go through a well thought out, protracted process that draws out that identity that already exists. Um, so I'd say like for anyone listening who hasn't been through like a brand engagement like this,
yeah,
walk us through a little bit. I know you can't
yeah,
go through all of it, but walk us
yeah,
through a little bit, what that actually looks like. Not like the deliverables, but the actual process.
yeah.
Um, what are the hard parts and what are the things that like sometimes get uncomfortable? I know that there were moments for our team that we sat there arguing back and forth. But talk a little bit about the process so that people understand what that looks like.
Yeah, so fundamentally, you touched on it right there, Todd, right at the beginning. I mean, yes, I could absolutely walk into, Baker, and tell you what I think you need to be, and you could tell me to leave, if and then nothing changes, and if you don't agree with it. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is your brand. This is your brand. So this whole workshop is geared towards everybody in that room, the leadership in that room, setting course for the rest of this organization. My role is to facilitate that and to guide and to make sure that we're touching on the right areas and having that conversation and encouraging those fights and interactions. That's my role. But the process itself is built around that idea. So we set the stage, and then it's very much individual group work. And I think we start at the very top of that messaging pyramid. So we start with the vision, where we're going. We start with, and again, we have group exercises around that. We, break off into groups. We have individual. We come together. We review the work. We had stickies. Well, I've got some stickies here. I still got them, Todd. We've got all the stickies. We stick things on the walls. Very interactive. So we start with the vision, then we get into the mission. Mission was really interesting in this workshop. The mission was probably my favorite moment in all of the workshops. Again, ask the question is, well, where is the value that Baker creates for its audience, and really again unpack that, and the purpose beyond making money. What why does Baker Roofing exist? And asking those very difficult questions. And that's a difficult question. You ask many executive team members beyond making money. And as soon as you say that, there's like oh, wow, that's a thing. It's a hard question to ask because, the goal of many organizations is you have to make money. So there's a lot of challenge around that. There's a lot of challenge around setting a vision. That's hard. That's a hard thing to do. And understanding about value, very hard thing to do. The next part of the process was onlyness. We call it the onlyness process. So that's the process of understanding what makes you different. I got the tennis ball. I did the tennis ball, right? The tennis ball thing. Okay, Matt, I don't remember. If I had 12 tennis balls in a basket and I launched them at you, I threw them at you, how many do you think you would catch?
2.
2?
I think I can
Well,
get
tell
2.
you.
If you did it all at once.
Just like that?
Just if you did it all at once, I could get 2.
All at once. 2. Okay. Well, we tried it. We did it. We we throw. Actually, we used to be oranges, which was dangerous. They're heavy, so you launch all these oranges at people, and people just kind of cower, and they just try not to get hit. But if I threw one tennis ball at you, how many would you catch?
I'm pretty sure if you get it.
You get the one. I actually did this with somebody at ThinkShift right in front of a client once, and he dropped it. He dropped the one. Anyway, the
analogy broke down
It didn't
immediately.
work. So, but that's the whole idea of onlyness. The whole idea of you've got one moment to cut through the clutter, to make people stop and go, that's really interesting in a world that's so competitive right now. You've got one message to throw and for people to catch. And that's the idea of onlyness, of differentiation, one idea to throw forward. And I think that was at the heart of the process. That's very difficult to do. So we do a lot of storytelling. We get a lot of stuff on the wall. We do a lot of dotting of stickers. And we have that conversation about how do we take all of this language and drill down into the one thing that's going to make you set apart from everybody else, and have them say yes to you, have them matter.
And these are, for those listening, these are things that now have been defined by a pretty big team. And we'll be sharing these with you, providing resources to help you in understanding what some of these values are. And I think the beauty is when you read these, none of them are going to be a surprise. That was what was really cool about this whole thing. You guys just helped surface the identity and put some new language around who we already are. And so that was, and to the mission point, one of my favorite outcomes of this was, we've had this sign that's existed with our company for over 110, 11 years. And now it actually, and we'd always like not really know how to refer to this. It's like our tagline, it's our sign. It's our always good work sign. And now we have it as our mission statement. And somebody says, well, what is the mission of Baker Roofing Company? It's, we shall do good work, profit if we can, loss if we must, but always good work. So yeah, we could talk a lot more about the process. It was fantastic. If you got questions, you can reach out to Dave at ThinkTip. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dave.
That's right. I could talk about it all day. It's honestly, it's so much fun.
Dave, a lot of companies approach this kind of work that you did with us, and they end up with something that looks great. It looks amazing, maybe, but it just doesn't get used, right? Maybe it lives in a PDF somewhere, or it just goes into a file on their computer screen and they don't really look at it any longer. So what separates brand work that actually takes hold and takes root from brand work that just kind of gets filed away and forgotten?
Well, 2 things. Number 1, you really have to believe it. You have to believe it, and you have to have a team that is 100% behind it. And if they're not, it will just get put away. And so that's number 1. You gotta be all in. all in on it, because it drives every aspect of the organization. And then that passion, desire, the clarity that it brings, you've got to have a group of people who are just so dedicated and passionate to pushing it to every corner of the organization, of sharing those stories at every moment, of just influencing and making people believe in this idea. The beauty of what you have is that idea has existed in your organization for over 100 years. It is so much a part of you that it's talk about it all the time. So I'd love to be able to tell you that it comes in spreadsheets and it comes in all those things, but I think it's in the heart. It's gotta be leadership driven, and it's gotta come through at every pore of an organization, every experience in the organization.
Yeah, it probably has to be so tangible and palpable, the feel of it, right? To your customers, we talked a little bit ago about, well, why would someone choose Baker Roofing? What's your onlyness?
Yep.
Well, part of your onlyness is probably that we care so deeply about where we work and that we want to do the right thing and always good work here, that people as a customer, they want to be a part of that too.
And that was the key. So much of the key to this whole story, your story, was the mission, the value, the way you that the what I felt when I came down, the way you treat people, that idea of elevating, doing the right thing, even at a loss if you must. It's in the sign. It's right there. It's so much a part of your culture to do the right thing by people, to do the right thing to make sure the relationship stays at a level that it needs to, high integrity. People feel that. People need that more now than ever before. And it is an absolute differentiator. It is an absolute, the way you treat people is a way to stand out and a way to differentiate. And it,
So that
it
that
was
ties in
clear as
really
day.
nice to my next question, which
Mm,
is this: if I'm not trying my best to frame this right for you, Baker Roofing Company been around since 1915. It's 111 years. It's a lot of
yep.
history. It's a lot of people who've given their careers to this place. There's a lot of customers who have long-standing generational relationships with us. How do you, as a brand uh, guy, right? This is what you do. How do you approach brand evolution at a company like this, where the stakes of getting it wrong, alienating the people who built it, are that high?
Yeah, because you can. It's, Todd, when I think we first met, I think this was one of our core conversations. You have to understand the history. You have to understand the legacy. You have to make sure that there's a reason you're successful today. There's a reason you're here. And you have to be very conscious that you are not here just to create something new and shiny and amazing. You have to look at the value. You have to look at the value you're creating, and you have to make sure that that value makes sense. Just we do this. We do this all the time. I, I shouldn't say agencies do this all the time. It's new. It's exciting. It's all this. It's like, does it serve the strategy? Is it serving the business? Is it serving the customers that are with you today? Um, is it serving your people? Like, and so to me, it's about extracting what is inherently you, what is inherently different about you, what is, and making that sing. Because that in essence is, we have our DARE model: different, authentic, relevant, and evocative. The authentic piece is so important in a legacy brand like Baker Roofing. The authentic part is so important. It's about just clarifying and extracting and singing it, and focus on those words, focus on that story and sing it. And so that to me is the opportunity, Matt. I think it's too easy to create something new, fresh, but is it going to stick? Is it going to do anything? Are you putting at risk what you've built today? Probably.
I love that concept of singing it. I think uh, we've talked a lot about brand, and I feel like, wow, we should actually talk about what like brand is. I know we kind of knocked on that a little bit in the
Yep.
beginning. One of my favorite definitions I've heard is, I think, from a friend of yours, somebody
Yeah,
Matt.
Matt. Yep.
Yeah, he had said that brand is meaning, And it's like meaning that people encounter when they encounter you. It's meaning that they place on you. And I love that he says, so then branding is the management of that meaning.
Meaning. Yep.
Um, and so I'd love to hear your take on like what is brand? When somebody asks like what brand is, like I I like to tell people like think about walking into that famous chicken place that we have here in the South with your eyes closed and you know exactly where you are within a few seconds with removing one of your senses. You can remove any one of your senses at a given moment at that brand and know still where you are.
Yeah.
Um and then the meaning that that gives you and the experience that that gives you. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about like brand in the context of Baker and brand in the context of branding for a company.
Yeah. So I will tell you that I am uh, I, I love Matt to death, and I think his meaning thing is fantastic. I am a huge student of Marty Neumeier, and I truly believe this idea of brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization. It is that deep down, you talk about senses. It's like you just know it. It is that gut feeling you have about something. When I think of Apple, I have a gut feeling about that company. FedEx, I think fast. The gut feeling is fast and expensive. That's a real what I think of. But that gut feeling is really what brand is. And here's the other story that I like to tell when what branding is. So Malcolm Gladwell in his book Blink, he it's that 1 second. You know, you shake somebody's hand, and I remember doing this in the workshop, and I shook. I can't remember who it was. I shook their hand, and it's really limp, awful, sweaty, gross handshake. And in that moment, I said, "Okay, well, what brand do I have to you in that handshake?" And he's like, "Gross. I wouldn't hire you. I remember that. I wouldn't hire you. I don't trust you. It's disgusting." You know, that's the brand. That gut feeling in that handshake. And then I did it again and shook his hand, and he looked him in the eye. It was a strong handshake. The brand is different. In every opportunity, and I talked about kind of how the brand needs to kind of, permeate through an organization. Every touch point is that handshake. So managing that touch point, that handshake to what you want it to be. You might want it to be gross and sweaty. That might be your brand, but probably not. That's the opportunity is to create that gut feeling at every single point and be really absolutely clear on what you want to be able, what that feeling needs to be. And Matt's absolutely right. You know, when we think of categories and we think of spaces that brands exist right now, you people's brains are limited. We have a limited amount of ability to concentrate on who's doing what and saying what. Like we have so much information pouring into our lives every single day. The clarity of that message, and you need to impart that meaning of why we exist, what we're doing here, and why we're different. We got to be able to answer that question in 1 second handshake. So that's what branding is the gut feeling. It is the feeling you get from any brand when you walk into that place. Todd, you mentioned that, and you just know where you are. It's that gut feeling. Manage it. Look at every touch point. Understand, get clarity, look at every touch point and manage it. Manage that feeling. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, us marketing nerds like to talk about mental availability, right, for
Yep.
branding.
Yep.
And being in people have limited mental availability. And so you want to be sure that you are distinctive, right? You said that word early, in order to take up the space that is afforded to what people think about, in our case, roofing, you know?
There's a great quote here. So Herbert Simon, I think it was Herbert Simon, who wrote The Attention Economy. A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. And in our world right now, we have all the information at our fingertips. It's and oh my gosh, like I just a tsunami of information hitting you. So you got to really like have a very clear message and
Yeah, I actually just wrote that one down. That is a fantastic. The best quotes are the ones that you know immediately are true, right?
So, Dave, we chose this phrase, brand refresh,
mm,
intentionally.
Yep.
This isn't a rebrand of Baker Roofing
No.
Company. What's the difference in practice? Why does that distinction even matter to the people inside the organization?
Well, I think a refresh to me is all the work that the team did is an acknowledgement of what you're doing is working. And like I said earlier, to extract and clarify and sing. And so it's not a wholesale change to your story. It's not a wholesale change to the visual and how it is expressed and the touch points. It is a clarification, and it is refreshed. And I think it's about highlighting again what is great and what again you're known for. Even the red triangle. A red triangle is so important to this brand. It is People have attached and put meaning to that. So it is a huge brand asset, just as your mission, we shall do good work. It's a huge brand asset you're known for. Leverage it. Leverage it. Sing it. Like these are the things that you're known for, and just apply meaning to them more consistently um, across the board. And so I think that's to me what the difference between a complete redo and a brand refresh. It was an acknowledgement of what you are doing is working.
Well, that's probably good for our people within Baker to hear, right? I mean, this isn't a scrap and restart. You know,
Yeah.
what is happening, what the people here are doing is working. And it's a tweak. It's a little change here and there. So I'm excited for it.
So, Dave, you talked to us a little bit about this earlier in the conversation, but I kind of want to give you another platform to talk about it. And what we've come to believe, and you see it and experience this out for the brands that actually mean something to me,
Mm,
that brand only works if people inside the organization believe it and
yep.
and that they also live it. Can't just be a marketing exercise, right? Brand is just not for the marketing team. For our employee owners, because we are a 100% employee owned company, um, who are listening, what does it actually look like to bring a brand to life as an employee? What's the role of someone who isn't in marketing on a day to day basis?
Oh man, what a question! What a question! Again, I think of somebody who has been a part of a brand who's been a not part of defining the brand, but living the brand and being asked to kind of, go out there and live that brand. But I've also been part of an executive team who's defined a brand and asking others to go out and do that. Belief is absolutely at the core of this. Believing that there is something that you are a part of that is truly, truly unique. And I can say, hands down, you have that. You have that going through you. So for everybody who, wasn't in the room, who didn't create this brand or didn't come up with the refresh. To me, it's just be a really great person. I can't think of a better way of saying this, but what the core of this brand is just the ability to just be really good, a good person, to do the right thing, to make sure everyone's delivering when they should, the quality of work that is expected, and when things go wrong, they go wrong, and we just work to fix them and do the right thing. And that, at its very core, is what this brand is all about: treating people well, valuing relationships, and doing those things every single day and every single moment, both internally, externally, is what this is all about. It is what this is all about. And if you can just do that, you're bringing this brand to life every single day. And it is different. It is different. Not everybody's doing this. And so for me, that commitment, that that idea of doing right by people is so, so important. So I hope that answers your question. And but I think
It really does, Dave, and, that was fantastic. That's exactly it, and actually, I would love for you, you wrote for us a manifesto, which we've already had the opportunity to read to a handful of people here, and the reaction to it, has been, well, positive feels like not enough to say. But really, the way I've understood it and explained it to people, it's kind of the distillation in a narrative of who we are as a company that we are now trying to embody into acts and language of our company. So I know, Dave, this is something you wrote and then read
Yeah.
back to us a couple months ago. I think even I'll leave her off. Somebody on my team almost cried when you read it. But I think it's really powerful in representing what you just said. So if you don't mind reading it for us, that would be great.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, here we go. For more than a century, Baker Roofing has stood on rooftops across the eastern United States, not just building and repairing, but protecting what matters most beneath them. Every business deserves protection they can trust. That's why, since the very beginning, our mission has remained the same. We shall do good work, at a profit if we can, at a loss if we must, but always good work. It's more than a motto. It's a fundamental belief that people come before profit, that doing the right thing, even when nobody is looking, outweighs convenience, and that a reputation is something earned project by project and generation by generation. In an industry defined by private equity, transactions, and broken promises, we choose to invest in a lifetime of relationships. Where others chase scale, we build trust. We take the short-term stress off our customers' shoulders and replace it with peace of mind through clear communication, honest partnerships, and a long-term commitment to a way of working that stands the test of time. We believe that every single person has a role to play and their work has impact across the community. We are a company of owners, not just in name, but in spirit. Our ownership model means every person who wears the Baker name shares in its success and carries its responsibility to one another, to our customers, and to the standard we set for the roofing profession. That sense of stewardship shows up in every decision we make and every roof we raise, because when we do good work, we lift everyone who does this work with us. We're here to prove that doing right by people isn't a weakness. It's our greatest strength. Because good work isn't measured in profit margins. It's measured in trust earned, relationships built, promises kept over a lifetime. Baker Roofing, for our people, for our customers, for our industry, for what's right.
Thank you, Dave. That I really do think wraps up who we are really, really well. And now it's our mission to go and live it, right? Like, to make that true. I think it is true, but to prove that it's true day in and day out. So
Dave, last couple questions.
Yeah.
What does look like a few years from now? So you just read the manifesto, which is fantastic. Gives a really good idea of who we are, how we should behave, what we should be doing. But for Baker and for what this work has set in motion with this whole brand refresh, how do you know when a brand engagement has really worked?
Uh, when it's not been put in a drawer, like you said earlier, that it's being lived, it's being believed, the stories are being told. Um, that's one way of measuring it. The other way of measuring it is you're achieving your growth goals. Because if you're doing that right, then, you know, people are starting to figure out that that's your value and figuring out that's what makes you different. And people are going to start coming to you. And that's the beauty of brand. When you get that right, it should really drive um, significant business growth. It should drive loyalty, which is the heart of brand equity. And yeah, so there's the business aspect to it, but there's also the people and heart aspect to it. And if those stories are still being told, I think of the stories of, at a loss if we must stories, those stories of like when we've done the right thing, like if those stories are being told, then the brand is alive and well. And so the two aspects, the business and the people, that's where it looks like.
Well, Dave, we certainly appreciate having you on here and being talking about one other thing that's alive and well, and that's Manchester United's opportunity to maybe get into the Champions League play next year.
We're
Um,
getting closer.
give me
We're
your
getting
thoughts
closer.
on, or we're really close. I think we're close to clinching it, but I don't want to speak too soon.
No, I got a good. I'm feeling good, but like I'm excited to watch him now, which is something.
Yeah.
I wasn't always excited to watch him.
Yes. Talk about loyalty, right? Brand
Never
loyalty.
those
Yeah.
proof points of success, right?
Yeah. Oh man. Like that my loyalty was tested over the last couple of years.
Agreed. Agreed.
Well, Dave, thank you so much. This effort, I know personally for me, not just being a marketer, but being a employee and really team member, I feel that more strongly than the word employee. For the last 20 plus years here at Baker, I not only feel a sense of ownership because of our 100% employee ownership, but an ownership because it's been a brand that I've grown up with. And so we appreciate the way that you have respected that and helped carry us through that. I have one last question for you. It's the one we always close out the episode with. And it is, what is on heavy rotation for you right now? What are you? It could be either what you're listening to or what you're streaming.
Oh, I am. Todd, that's probably going to be one of the albums that I'm going to send you. But it's Richard Ashcroft's album here. That I remember the songs. Hang on, bear with me for a second here. Heavy Rotation is right here. So the album is Human Conditions by Richard Ashcroft that nobody would know probably. But Richard Ashcroft is a British singer who used to be the lead singer of The Verve back in the day, and does his individual stuff. But it's a few years old. But yeah, sorry, that's on heavy rotation for me every single day right now. For some reason, I have no idea why, but that is.
Well, I've got it written down. I can attest. Dave and I exchange album ideas back and forth. He's got great taste. So if anybody's looking for a good rotation, Richard Ashcroft, Human Conditions.
Yep. It's a great album.
So for everyone listening, whether you've been with Baker for 20 years or 20 days, what you're seeing and hearing right now is who we've always been. We just said it better.
So, like we always like to close, we shall do good work at a profit if we can, at a loss if we must, but always good work. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. That wraps up this episode of Under the Roof. Thanks for joining us and being part of the Baker Roofing family.
If you liked what you heard, share it with your crew. Hit the follow button and keep the conversation going wherever you work.
We're here to keep you informed, inspired, and included, because the more connected we are, the better we work together.
And as always, we'll leave you with this. We shall do good work, at a profit if we can, at a loss if we must, but always good work. See you next time.